Action.
Good morning.
Good morning, Molly. Nice to
Do you
see
want to do a little casual talk, or you just want to jump right into this?
You got skulls today.
I do. Cheers.
Cheers.
Where'd you get that one?
An old coworker made it for me for Christmas in 2023.
That's so cool.
It's really sweet. It's a good weight, good handle.
I'll have to show you. Hold on. My favorite one, but it's not like a perfect circle. It's a whoopee.
So do you ever feel inclined to pour it out of the whoop? Like,
yes, I do.
yeah.
I find my angle and I'm like,
I like the thumb rest that one had too. It was really cool.
Good morning. I'm Molly, and I'd like to welcome you to The Angle, a GRS series highlighting our instructors shaping the 2026 class season. Let's go. How are you doing? Where are you at right now?
I am in my shop in Oakland, California. I relocated to the East Bay last year after living in San Francisco for about 4 years, and I love it over here. Really chill. It feels more community driven.
Good.
It's cool. You know, I'm tucked up against the East Oakland hills, and so like I hike every morning in the mountains and watch the sunrise over the bay and stuff. It's pretty sweet.
Are you still biking?
I am. Yeah, my injury knocked me out for pretty much the whole year last year. I didn't ride again until maybe November. I was just injured in late April. Tried riding again very gently at the end of the year. But I got to go to Hawaii for Christmas, and I brought my bike out there.
Ooh.
So I rode all over Maui and was climbing like coastal sea cliffs and stuff on my bike. It was beautiful. So yep, back on the bike as always.
Good. How's your wrist doing?
It's good. It's near full recovery. I have one small tendon issue in my thumb. It was my left hand, which is my dominant hand, which is tough, but it doesn't impede my work. So while I am facing some repercussions, I'm able to set and engrave just fine. It's more like I get some tingly fingertips. It's mostly a nerve thing. So
to start off, go ahead and do a quick intro as to who you are and what you're teaching at the training center this year.
My name's Adam Guzzon. I'm a diamond setter and hand engraver, bench jeweler, goldsmith, platinum smith. I do a little bit of everything. And this year I'm super stoked to be teaching both basic stone setting and bridal settings, which is an intermediate stone setting level course.
Filled up real quick, had to add another one in there.
It filled up so quick. I'm so excited. That was super cool. I always love Enrollment Day. It's exciting, you know, for everyone. It's exciting. I remember being a student and it being so exciting. And this was
Speak to that, because this is for, future students. Like, how does Enrollment Day go down for us?
Wow, I realized how, like, I'm realizing what I was about to say back in my day, or when I was a student.
No, you're not that old, Adam.
I'm not. Really, though, it was a little bit different in that it was on the phone, right? We called Otis, and I've lived on the West Coast my whole life, and it was Central Time, so 2 hours ahead. And so, like, all week you were planning for Enrollment Day, and maybe you had a selection of 2 to 3 that you were hoping to get into, but for years it was like Enrollment Day, and
and it was all levels at once too.
All levels at once, and it was like Black Friday for GRS classes.
Yes.
It was literally like Black Friday for GRS classes, and so it's a bit different now that we've split it up. It's taken a lot of that craze out of the equation. But I do think it's still a really exciting day for students, instructors, and GRS staff. I know that from the staff and the instructor side, seeing that level of enthusiasm come into the training center is incredible, especially today. especially right now. Art is so important. Our industry has been through some shifts and changes, just like all industries go through, and uh, we're at a really important time right now. And I'm really excited to see our enrollment numbers so high. I'm so excited to see my classes particularly fill up. People going after stone setting after having to take the last year off, after not teaching, coming back strong this year with those enrollment numbers feels great, and I'm stoked. And I really missed it last year. I missed it so much.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of what I do. It's a huge part of my entire year. You know, it's not just those couple of weeks that I'm in Emporia. I'm thinking about these courses. I'm thinking about my students every single day that I'm here at this bench.
A lot of the instructors have said similar things about how the classes are kind of constantly cycling through their head and how they can improve it. Do you have a method of how you track those thoughts or how you build your ideas? Do you use notebooks? Do you use pictures? Do you just constantly think about it?
Like all of us, we constantly think about it. You know, I think that's the nature of our craft and our passion being so tied together, is that for better or worse, some boundaries get blurred, and
Yes.
always on. Always
Yes.
on. I have been really fortunate in that I was managing a team of 5 jewelers for the last year and a half or two with my previous employer. And so it's like I had a live set of really skilled jewelers to sort of hone my educational skills with every single day. And I found that was extremely important and critical to me improving my skill sets in explaining. That sort of hands-on experience, teaching and managing people every day, helped me sort of hone what I do in the classroom. I currently have 3 notebooks going. One is for just general life admin, and that could be groceries, that could be I need to order these burrs. It could be like literally anything. I have one notebook specifically for dreams and like spiritual stuff, and then one notebook that I just started in January for specifically art projects and jewelry. And so, depending on what thought is happening, and I will file it into one of those 3 places.
So for specifically art, are you putting inspiration down in there, or you have big projects that you want to do? Share a little bit of that.
So again, it's a brand new journal. We're only a couple pages in.
But you created it, so you know what you want it for.
Oh, 100. You want to see it? It's right here.
Look at that. Prepared. Very nice.
I started it with a projects list, and this is important for me. I've even said this in interviews before, is that like I would do really well with a thought secretary, you know, someone that could help me with all
Daddy.
this. So the projects, and I'm sure you can relate to this, are constant. The ideas of doing stuff non-stop. And a big opportunity for me is harnessing that and channeling that properly and responsibly too. And I've found that just getting it down, there's now a container for it to fall into, and then I can go scoop it out of that container and then, you know, put it somewhere else from there. But at least for it somewhere to land is really important for me. Otherwise, it's just a kind of a chaotic, beautiful, chaotic mess.
Where do you think a lot of your inspiration come from? You're a GIA grad, so does it start with like a certain stone that you see and you're like, oh, this would be really cool if I do this? Or does it come from, you know, plant life or architecture? Where does your inspiration flow from?
I'm really inspired by shape and form and color. Something that I've been thinking a lot about lately is the space between things. So if we look at still life, we have these objects. And if we're trying to depict these objects, even if we're engraving, we have these defining lines and borders of these edges. I've been trying to shift lately to think about all the other space. So using those edges of a cup to define the air and what is between all these things. And so the relation of just light, form, color, and space is really interesting to me. Music is a huge inspiration for me too. One way that I love to design, and I'd be curious to know if anyone else does this too, is I will listen to sounds and I'll let them move me into a visual. And and so I'll take an element of a song that I really enjoy and I'll sit with that. And it could just be like one chord progression or one sound or something. And I'll sit with that and think, what does that make me feel and what do I see? And I'll create that into a design element, and then I'll move on from there. And suddenly I have this visual representation of what an auditory experience gave me. And that's really special to me. That is kind of like the magic of design and creation for me.
Today's episode is sponsored by
Bench Beats,
the first streaming music channel designed specifically for bench jewelers and engravers, featuring curated playlists like bead setting and bass drops, microscope lo-fi, German precision techno, and everyone's favorite, do not breathe while you cut. Bench Beats, where the BPM matches your hand speed. Now streaming 24/7 because timing is everything. Warning, may increase productivity and unnecessary head nodding. I want to pivot backwards.
Let's go.
So we're talking about how it was for you as a student on enrollment day. How was it coming into your first class? What was your first class, stone setting or engraving?
My first class was a combo class with Todd.
That was that private one, right?
Yep. Yeah, I've been fortunate to have mostly private courses with GRS, me and a bunch of my old friends and stuff. So even though I remember what that enrollment was like, I do have a unique experience in that it was working one-on-one with a sales rep who then can pull from the instructor pool and see what are these students' needs and who's the best instructor for it. Or, hey, these students are requesting Todd, they're requesting Sam, they're requesting Rex, which is exactly what we did. And, then Todd, Rex, and Sam all built custom classes for us based on exactly what it is that we wanted to learn. And this is such a great option for the in-between students where it might be difficult to commit to a course because you know a little bit of all of this and you might do this really, really well. A custom course is a great way to make sure that GRS can cater strictly to the group of the students and get what they're looking for.
So what about your first class as an instructor? How was that? Were you nervous? Were you more excited than nervous?
I was, thanks for asking. I was definitely nervous. I think that as humans, when we push ourselves into the places of discomfort, when we try and reach for new things, we should be feeling some fear.
100%.
So, yes, I was absolutely nervous because I was pushing myself absolutely out of my comfort zone. I'm still pretty new at this. I've only been doing this for 14 years. I'm still pretty young. I had some serious imposter syndrome. And I still feel that. Like it's the balance of, knowing that I do have expertise, that I have earned that, that I am worthy of learning from, but also forever feeling like a student in pursuit of mastery is a really unique thing to balance and dance with. But I am extremely confident in the methods that I teach, and the work that I produce shows that I've got a thing or two to say or teach. But it's every class is a unique experience, and I think I'm always a little excited and just kind of stoked to see what's ahead. Ideally, 20 years from now, if I'm still teaching, I'll be good then. Maybe I got it all.
Even then, everyone still has something that a skill that they're wanting to learn, which I think is so great about this industry. There's always something new. So, what is a skill that you're wanting to learn?
Just one? Are you kidding me right now?
The first one, the one that you want to learn the most. You can throw in some others.
The first one that comes to mind is 35 millimeter film photography.
Talk to Sam.
I know. So before I was a jeweler, I studied photography. Like I went to school for photography and everything, and I used to shoot all of my own work. I was very much a photographer before I was ever a diamond setter, and my relationships with cameras have changed a lot, especially with the onset of the phone and all that. But I recently had a photographer staying in town with me for a bit that shoots for some pretty major publications, and seeing their work got me really pumped. And I recently found a community darkroom here in Oakland, and they have a darkroom refresher class that I really want to take to kind of just get my wheels turning on it again, because I used to work in a darkroom and develop my own film and all that stuff. So that's the biggest thing on my want list for creative outlets.
Cool. Now, more industry specific, what is a skill that you would like to learn?
CAD.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I had this realization last year, and I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I want to learn CAD. And the reason I say it like that is I made a very, very conscious decision in probably 2013 that the energy that I was going to put into this business was going to be into very specifically handcrafted products. And I was excited about the concept of hand fabrication. I was stoked at hand engraved over machine engraved or laser engraved. I despised CAD layout, pave, all this stuff, and those are valid feelings. My favorite jeweler ever would still say that, and that person is successful in what they do doing that, and that's rad. What I've found though is that it's inhibited me, and that I had ego wrapped up in it too. I've been challenging myself to rethink that. One thing that I love about Sam is that I've never seen him shy away from a technology. He's done everything he can to learn everything he possibly can about it and then implement it to the best of his needs, So yeah, to see someone like Sam embracing a lot of these tools these days really goes to show, hey, like it's okay. You can still use some of these tools and be a hand engraver and engrave it by hand, and we got to make money. We got to eat. I'm coming off of an injury that took my life to pieces. I'm literally rebuilding my life from the ground up, every single stone from the ground up, and working efficiently is really important in that process. So I would really like to learn CAD.
I think there's kind of a place for everything. One, like, you're going to have those high-end clients that you can build out that beautiful ring from scratch, or you have your everyday clients, your bread and butter, that has more of a place for CAD,
Right, yeah.
But the other thing about that too is, speaking to Sam, learning all of the new technology and everything, it's like you can't say about things until you have tried it and
Yeah, right. And I haven't tried any of that. So.
And you don't even have to just use it for like jewelry related too. Like with Sam, he has taught himself that, and he built those little holders for the magnifying. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
For the magnifying glass, for the microscope. You know what I meant.
I know. Yeah. This is technically a magnifying glass. Like if you.
Thank you. Yeah. Let's talk about your different learning experiences via GIA at Glendo, through private mentors, through business, Alexander. What pieces have you taken from those learning experiences and applied towards your own teaching? What do you really like? What did you not love?
My learning experience varies, but it's all rooted pretty formally in that I went to school at GIA. I have 2 degrees from there, graduate jeweler, graduate gemologist. I have several certificates from GRS, and then I have my optical diamond setting diploma from Alexander School in Antwerp, Belgium. I've also learned on the job a lot. So I apprenticed for 3 years straight out of the school. And after that, I opened my own company. Following the launch of my own company, I worked as the master jeweler for a $20 million store in Denver. I was the head of studio and head jeweler for a $6 million store in San Francisco. So I've had quite a bit of on-the-job work experience to balance all that formal education. And I would say that is the most critical thing. It's a relationship between the two. And I remember coming out of school thinking I knew exactly how to do everything. And I did methodically know how to size a ring and set around brilliant, but I had only done that in a classroom setting. It's a lot different when it's a client job and you have 30 of them to do, so to speak, or even just 5 to do. When you're brand new, that's a lot. Sizing 5 rings is crazy when your class project was to do 1 or something like that. So my teaching style is absolutely a product of all of that. I've had on-the-job mentors that were a little too hands-off and kind of just like, let me figure it out. And I know that I don't personally work that well that way. And so that's allowed me to make sure that I'm more hands-on with my students. I think going to school in Europe exposed me to a little bit of a different style of education than I was maybe used to, and I for sure have brought that back with me. So in my classes at GRS, the way that I can best serve my students is with them, with me, with their work at my microscope, because there's a camera. Oh. I will make my rounds around the classroom. We'll have discussions at the bench. But for me to best serve my student, we both need to see what's going on. So we'll review their work up at the instructor's desk at the scope with their work on the monitor so that we can, discuss at large what's going on. I think this is really important because it gives a student experience being a little bit vulnerable and accepting critique as just that. There's nothing personal here. There's nothing emotional here. It's just we're shooting to be the best stone setters we can. I personally find that to be the most effective in relaying the information. And it's really cool to watch that growth happen throughout the week. And it's like if you can have someone inspect your work under the microscope in front of a room full of strangers, you can do most things in a jewelry store. It's good experience to then take home to wherever one may be working. As far as the way in which I teach information, it's extremely methodical. The material that I teach is extremely specific. It's data driven. It's numbers driven. We're not doing things based on feeling. There's specific standards to how deep we are burring prongs and how deep the table should be flush with metal or with prongs. And not only does this create a very methodical way of learning it to the student, it's a really easy way to then communicate it. So front of house to back of house, jeweler to jeweler, manager to jeweler, owner to jeweler, it's really important that we can talk about these things in consistent ways too. So that's kind of the big reason that I'm pretty systematic on the manners in which I teach it.
How were you approached about teaching, and why is it so important to you?
Teaching is incredibly important to me because it's been a goal of mine for so long. The second I walked in for my first day at GRS, I knew that I wanted to return to be an instructor. I hadn't even taken that course yet. All I did was walk in the door and see the museum cases of equipment.
Yes,
And I
yeah.
was just like, what is going on here? Where have I just found myself, you know? And I was in Emporia, Kansas at the U.S. Mecca of hand engraving, you know? So I've known for many, 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 many years that I wanted to do this. And the reason it's so important to me is because I'm so lucky to have all the education that I have, to study with all the instructors and teachers and masters. It's really critically important for me to pass that on. And yeah, it's so important to pass it on, and I feel lucky to be in a position to do so. The way that it came about was, you know, I got approached. I've been a GRS student for the entire time I've been a jeweler. I think about 5 years into that, I touched base with GRS and was like, hey guys, love you. Love you so much. Love your tools. Love your classes. Would love to, you know, demo for you, or, you know, like, this is what my eye is on, this prize. And I want to get here. How do I do it? And I just remember being told, keep working hard. Literally almost those words. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep working hard. And I did. And then just a few years ago, I got an email that said, hey, can you jump on a call? And, you know, 3 months later, bridal settings was written and curriculum was solid, and we were teaching it 3 months after that. So it was very, very cool to bring that course into the curriculum, and then now have my basic course as well. And I have some super cool courses being written right now.
Yes, I love to hear that.
Yeah, super cool courses. We'll see if, yeah, stay tuned.
Do you have any student reviews or stories from your classes that have stuck with you so far?
I would think that these would stick with me a little harder, but I can only think of one, and it was just really like endearing. It was my first bridal settings class. So it was my first class I had ever taught. As I spoke to before, I was nervous. It was a new experience for all of us. And I felt that my students understood me, and they spoke to the fact that they were leaving with things they didn't have, or straight up thought they could not do. I had a student that just thought they couldn't do super sharp faceted claw prongs, and they were doing them. And it was like just that one prong style made their week. Like, that's so cool to me. That's good enough for me right there. You know, claw prongs. Let's do it. Can't wait to teach you all about my spicy level of prongs. It goes from mild to tie hot.
If there's one thing that a student walks away from your classes, what would you have it be?
Understanding. Yeah, deep understanding. I want to say confidence, but I want to go with deep understanding, because I know that will lead to confidence.
I love that. Yeah, Adam, I'm so happy you're going to be back this year.
Me too. I'm so happy you're going to be back this year.
Yay, team! Thank you for spending time with us this morning. We hope you stay tuned for the newest episode of The Angle with our next instructor.